Hi, everyone. I'm Annie Morefield, and I'm a senior this year at Mechanicsburg High School. I am going to start off my presentation, if it happens to work. Okay, so when I heard about this theme, My World, A Better World, I couldn't help thinking about empowerment and what that means for us. Most of us are seniors this year and juniors, and in a couple of years, we're going to be stepping out in the world and creating our own generation. So I hope that after this talk, all of you will be able to leave and have some kind of inkling of empowerment. My personal experience with empowerment started when I went to Peru over the summer. I spent 3 weeks there with National Geographic touring the country, and it was a photography expedition. We did some community service on the side, but most of it was photography. For those of you who don't know anything about Peru, it's on the west coast of South America. You might think of Peru with textiles or llamas or guinea pigs. I know it's a delicacy there. It's a little weird for us here. But that's Peru. It's a third world country. It's very different from America. They lack basic infrastructure, education. The wealth gap is huge. They're the very rich and the very poor. So this is where I spent my summer for 3 weeks, and I will start off by showing you some of my photos. This was taken in an old Incan quarry. At night, we went over and camped out, so this was one of the photos. You might think of Peru by seeing these people. This was an old couple in Ollantaytambo, which is a small town outside of Cusco, Peru. And this is Machu Picchu. So a lot of people classify Peru with Machu Picchu and the old Incan ruins. They're very neat. So what we did on assignment projects. So each day we'd go into communities. We would go to towns and maybe photograph families, or we would go and photograph restaurants. And this is how we kind of made our own collections. So one of our on assignments was to photograph workers. So I was put into a group, and we were supposed to go out into a field and photograph workers harvesting their crops. They ran a small restaurant in the town, so they would go out, harvest their crops, and come back in and sell them in the restaurant, cook with them, and that's how they made their living. There was a little bit of a miscommunication, and we ended up in a slaughterhouse. So the next few photos that you're going to see might be a little graphic, so if any of you are going to be queasy, this is a slaughterhouse, and I became a vegetarian after going there. I promise they're not that bad. I tried to pick photos that you could all handle. So I pushed through the doors, and this was one of my first scenes. It was gory. There were cow carcasses laying all over the place. It was a white tiled room with blood everywhere. And it made my stomach drop. So if you can imagine that. And then I got in a little further, and I noticed this woman standing in the back, crouching with cow guts, with her baby strapped to her back in beautifully woven textiles. And it kind of struck me, because we don't see this in America. We don't see families like this, with their babies strapped to their backs, working on cow carcasses. It's just not something that we see. And at one point, the mom took off the baby from her back and hung it on one of the meat hooks so that she could continue working. So while I was consumed with the cow carcasses and feeling nauseous, this little girl tugged on my shirt and kind of led me into a different room so I didn't feel so queasy. I think that she could tell that I wasn't handling it very well. But she was fascinated by my camera, and she kept grabbing at it. And I kind of stood back and tried to capture this photo. And it's kind of the dichotomy of our two opposing worlds. Here I am with a Nikon camera strapped to my hip, and I'm a plane ride away from my house, in an industrialized country, and we have amenities and resources. And here's this little girl who's 5 years old comforting me in a slaughterhouse in Peru. And in 10 more years, she's going to be just like her mom, sitting there with the cow guts with a baby strapped to her back. And I couldn't help imagine what that must feel like. Not having opportunities that we're given in America, and seeing this little girl be just so content with her circumstances. So she started playing on the meat hooks, like monkey bars, and I captured this photo. It's just like the pure joy in her face. So why does this matter to us? Why are we talking about a slaughterhouse in Peru? Well, it's interesting, and there's a theory about this. It's called the Kegan theory. The Kegan theory is a psychology theory, and it begins with level 1. So level 1 is very me-oriented. My basic needs, what I need, what I want. Level 2 is building relationships. So me as a daughter, or me as a sister, or me as a friend. What do I need to give and take to be in a relationship or a community? Kegan theory level 3. Level 3 kind of explains where half of the world is right now. So that little girl in the slaughterhouse would be classified in level 3. She was born into a family that had a slaughterhouse. She will be raised to take over that slaughterhouse one day with her husband, and she will have kids someday that work in that same slaughterhouse. This theory, or this level of the theory, is explained as traditionalism. So farmers and doctors and careers back when we might not even imagine them, you would have your kids and they would grow up and become the same, or have the same career as you did. And so the Kegan theory states that half of the world is functioning in this state right now. But we are functioning, thank you, in the 4th level. The 4th level explains cross-cultural. So we, as an industrialized nation, can communicate with other cultures. So I'm sure that most of you have your smartphone on you right now. You can log on to Twitter and Facebook, and we have the internet to kind of broaden our global perspective. And this is where the other half of the world functions right now. It's called modernism. And this all kind of ties ourselves into each other, right? It's not such a close-knit community anymore. We're broadening our horizons and breaking down those barriers. So we need to understand other cultures if we're going to move forward. And the 5th level, could you change? Anyone? Go back one. Okay. The 5th level is where Kegan hypothesized we will be eventually. That everyone will be in a community and in this world breaking down barriers. We won't have any Republicans or Democrats or Chinese or American. We'll understand each other more. And if we're moving to this stage, then we need to break down those barriers now. We, as an industrialized nation, have the resources and the education to go out and spread our thoughts and critical thinking. And that little girl in Peru should be able to have the opportunity to get a higher education. Because higher education leads to critical thinking, and critical thinking leads to better resources and more ideas, and it can cultivate a society. And we in America experience that, and I think that we take for granted a lot of times what we do and don't have. And if we're going to be moving to this level eventually someday, don't you think that we should reach out to other communities and spread our knowledge and our resources so that eventually we can cultivate a society that's even better than we do now? So this is a quote that I really love from Woodrow Wilson. It says, "You are here in order to enable the world to live more amply. With greater vision, with a finer spirit of hope and achievement, you are here to enrich the world." So that's what I want you to take away from this TED Talk. I want you to go out and empower someone, or empower yourselves to do something. Because in the next generation, this is what we're going to be having to do. We're going to have to go out and educate the world. And we're going to go out and have to spread our resources. So empower yourself now and come up with the ideas now to go out and change the world. Thank you.